The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Adam McBride, NFT archaeologist,
What's up, everyone?
Michael Dupree from EasyBit. Unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. Great to be on the 300th episode. Oh my God. Mike Dupree from EasyBit here in Acapulco. Great to see everyone.
Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
This is Bitcoin.
Martine Wishmare from General Bytes.
Howdy ho.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one. Bitmex. Bitmex founder predicts gold rising to 10K, Bitcoin marching to $1 million. The price of Bitcoin has been down lately while the price of gold has been up. But now they're saying that both gold and Bitcoin could skyrocket. Adam McBride, everyone loves the price of Bitcoin. What can you tell us about the price?
Well, you see, if you read that article, really nice article, actually. What he puts in it is basically...
We're talking about Arthur Hayes, right? And I mean,
Yeah,
this guy is a brilliant man.
Yep, he certainly is. And he made a really interesting point, which is like, look, the world's seeing now, individuals are seeing that these governments aren't necessarily to be trusted, right? Truckers in Canada, they'll take your bank account, no like court order, just grab it, right? And with the Russians, government's money being frozen through the SWIFT network and this sort of stuff, his kind of point was like, look, now countries around the world are seeing that their assets can be frozen. So they're going to look to diversify, and the places to diversify are gold and Bitcoin.
I think that Putin is also seizing Biden's assets, but evidently Biden is a junior. And so they're seizing his dead father's assets at this point was on the list, but yeah.
Yep. So the theory, it's an interesting one. I hadn't thought about that, about that carryover, or what kind of a precedent's been set. And it's an interesting theory. Who knows if it'll happen? But if it does, if these kind of countries start moving into Bitcoin as a store of value or something, oh my God, forget it. It's crazy time.
I think the bigger problem for us is if they move away from the SWIFT network, which the United States basically controls, and they create their own, then that's going to be a big problem for us. But we're getting off topic. I apologize.
Mike Dupree, your thoughts on Bitcoin and if governments could use it as a store of value?
I don't know. Like El Salvador is certainly trying to, and I was down there a few months ago at the conference talking about anti-money laundering and these kind of things. And I'm really excited with the ideas that they're trying to execute, but it's a bit disconcerting at points whether or not they're going to actually fuck it up and make Bitcoin look bad, for lack of better words. So it's not as easy as it looks necessarily, but I think that governmental involvement in Bitcoin is good, but I think that El Salvador has the potential to have fractional reserve Bitcoin, since they only allow a Lightning network within their ATMs and their exchanges, for example. So I think the jury is really still out over there.
Dan Eve, Bitcoin to $1 million?
Well, I think so, and eventually, I think maybe not in the short term, but the gold situation is getting crazy. It's near another all-time high. You've got China and Russia have been stacking gold for a few years now. In the UK, just over 20 years ago, Gordon Brown sold off almost half of the UK's gold, and got a measly $275 an ounce. So it's kind of another Bitcoin pizza sort of situation where he sold it for $3.5 billion versus about 16.7 billion now, which is crazy. I think that Bitcoin's on its way up. Obviously, we're in a bit of a kind of sideways market at the moment, but there seems to be hints of another bunch of checks coming, right? Stimulus checks coming in from the US, and we all know what happened last time. A bunch of them were actually used to to buy Bitcoin, which is obviously really cool. But the general article,
it's kind of ironic that our United States ATM average transaction is currently $1,200. I know the stimulus checks were ages ago, but literally right now it's still $1,200 average.
But that could be because people literally were saving those checks. Like, I'm going to save this check for a rainy day because it's not in my account and therefore it can't be taken out by a direct debit or whatever. So they'll save that stimulus check. And now they're finally thinking, oh, actually, they're printing so much of this, I might as well put it into Bitcoin. Because remember what happened last time? They bought Bitcoin with the stimulus checks when it was like $9,000 or something in 2020, and it's now 40, and was 68. But yeah, it does seem like the US dollars kind of could potentially, is losing its hold right now. Even like Saudi Arabia wants to sell oil in Chinese yuan, Russia to India oil exports. That India is kind of crossing over currency instead of the US dollar. So it's kind of almost setting the stage for the Chinese yuan as the digital dollar, right? Which is what they've been kind of working at right now. And this turmoil and the sanctions on Russia, Russia's still selling their oil. It's just going through different sort of avenues. Obviously they've got other issues with their assets frozen. But like I read that rather than obviously Europe, US just cutting off the oil supply from Russia, it's being sold elsewhere, and then that's being sold at a premium back to the US and other areas in Europe. So it's finding a way to get back, because at the end of the day, there is a dependence on energy on Russia. They're the biggest energy producer.
What do you think about though, like Elon saying, "Hey, like America, wake up! We need to start producing more of our own oil."
Very sensible, because as much of the guy, the fact is, I kind of respect. He has some crazy stuff, but I respect them that Tesla's technology is open source. So if anyone can do it better, he wants sustainable energy ultimately. And
so we don't mind if he revolutionizes the energy economy. We just don't want him promoting doggy coin and such and fucking around with our financial markets.
That's right.
Exactly.
No doggy coin. No doggy coin.
But I think that if you haven't had a chance to read the article, I think he pretty much summarizes with a really poetic little finish, which is, remember this: you own nothing. You merely rent your net worth, both as an individual or sovereign, from the entity that operates that centralized permission fiat digital monetary network. Referring to Swift and Co. And so the fact is that again, going back to this whole premise of, if you don't own your private keys, you don't own your Bitcoin, and your money's in other people's hands right now. Your money's
that's the issue in El Salvador with the Chivo network. You don't hold your keys, thus you don't own your Bitcoin.
Yeah, because it's kind of, they're using a permission Lightning network, right? It's not people running their own nodes. So own
correct.
keys,
and it
own
all
Bitcoin.
has to be administered through the government. So it's free, and they allow you to interchange, but it's not really your own private keys.
There you go.
Like so Bitcoin is bringing a lot of freedom there to El Salvador.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to Martin, maybe Russia will trade their oil for Bitcoin. Only 21 million units, quite a collectible still.
I don't know. I read the article, and every time somebody wants attention, they just add an extra zero to the projected Bitcoin price. So yes, he's obviously very, very smart man, but and even if
the more zeros you add, the smarter you get.
And if you add the most zeros, you'll end up in Forbes or something. So it's I don't know. Every time I see that, say, sure, eventually the Bitcoin will be worth maybe 1 million. But by that time, it's just enough to buy a cheeseburger at McDonald's. So, because the inflation is catching up too. I'm not really impressed by those projections. And yes, sure, the prices are going up. And Russia apparently is one of the world's largest gold producers, but they can't access half of their gold. So I'm really curious, where is their gold stored? Not in Russia itself then. Did they give the gold to the Swiss, or what happened here? I couldn't find that information. I tried researching it, but it's nobody knows where the Russian gold is. Maybe it's in Putin.
It's probably
Josh has confiscated it in Voltoro.
It's probably in
it's all in Voltoro.
No gold for you.
I think that it is really important to note, though, that in the previous years when Arthur has made these predictions, he's actually very, very smart. Like I met him probably 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know exactly when, in Hong Kong. And he's just like, he's not someone that doesn't know his math and his numbers. So I know that anyone can say, oh, gold's going to 10K and Bitcoin's going to 1 million and whatever else. But I feel like Arthur actually has a finger on the pulse, and Bitmex is not a small exchange. And some of the things they've done are really cool. So I wouldn't underestimate his opinion. He's been right many times in the past, if you look back.
It's just that there is no time frame set on the prediction. So when there is no time frame set on the prediction, I'm not really impressed with the prediction, because it's like, sure,
because it could be in
it will
1,000
go up.
years of dollars
Exactly,
worthless. And
and then,
yeah.
oh yeah, Arthur was right all along. Yeah. so I don't know.
I just mean that in general, he has a good idea of what's going on, and he's a really smart guy. And I don't think he's personally valuing or benefiting from trying to make these predictions.
Anybody who uses that prediction and then trades on Bitmex will probably end up wrecked, going 50 times leverage or something.
So also report that on Twitter, Plan B has come back and says that Bitcoin is still within the range, and if it just goes up like crazy, he'll be back on board, and the Plan B theory will all be good to go.
Yeah, but until then, he's an antivirus expert or something, COVID expert. I stopped following the tweets. Sorry, Plan B, if you're listening, but I followed you for your predictions and not the COVID advice.
He was very upset at the Netherlands and their attempts to get control over COVID. Now it's the time everyone's been waiting for, the Bitcoin predictor ball. Adam McBride, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Oh, higher, my friend. Did you hear, man? 1 million, dude. 1 million. That's the prediction. What are you doing? Of course it's going to be higher. What does the ball say?
Mike Dupree.
It's going to 0, but I won't tell you when.
Oops. Dan E.
I guess lower for the purposes of 1 week. Yeah, I guess lower.
We've got a higher and a lower so far. Dan Eve, where are you going to go?
Well, I don't think it's quite going to hit 1 million very, very soon, but I'm going on the same train track as the mystic Arthur Hayes, and I'm going to go higher this week because I think we're on a little mini fake bull run.
Martine Wishmayer.
Definitely higher. It's been going up for days now, so higher we will go.
Now, I have it on good authority from the chat that this is everyone's favorite part of the show. So we are going to go all out here and turn off all my virtual backgrounds. Get ready. Here we go for the Magic 8 Ball. Yes, you can see it right here being shaken. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? And it is certain. It is certain. The ball has spoken.
Knew it.
Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2. The Freedom Convoy of Bitcoin donations have been frozen and seized. Bitcoin was supposed to be a financial lifeline for vaccine mandate protesters in Canada. That hasn't exactly worked out to plan. Yes, one of the members of the group was holding on to the Bitcoin, getting ready to distribute it to the truckers, when suddenly it was seized by the Canadian government. Mike Dupree, what do you think about the attempt to raise Bitcoin donations for truckers in Canada and how it spectacularly failed as predicted on this show?
I think it's ridiculous. And I think there was already some DAOs and some Bitcoin donations and crypto donations, both for Ukraine and for the Canadian truckers. And like this GoFundMe people who arbitrarily, they didn't even refund everyone initially. They just arbitrarily froze their money. As a custodian of Bitcoin with the ATMs at points, if we did that, they'd throw my ass in jail. So I don't understand how it's acceptable at all. So let's use DAOs. Let's find ways to raise money through Bitcoin and crypto and keep it from being frozen. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. They would freeze, like, if you know who the people are that are giving you the money and you're sure they want to give the money to these truckers, fucking give it to them. It's not illegal. It shouldn't be illegal. I think it's ridiculous.
That was pretty awesome when they froze the GoFundMe money. Sure, it's one thing to refund it, to give them the money back, but another thing to freeze it and say, that's bad money. You're bad money. Dan, Eve, your thoughts about the exciting
Exactly. Couldn't agree with you more. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure thing. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on the fundraiser gone wrong.
Well, I think the part of it that went wrong was because obviously, Bitcoin is censorship resistant money. But that, obviously that's completely peer to peer and worldwide and yada, yada, yada. And it's hard money. But it's this particular method still relied on third parties. And that's always where the kink in the chain is, right? And so as much as they're really well organized and there was a 25-page dossier on how the distribution method was going to work,
and they were going to smash the printer with the sharpest pruning.
Yeah,
sheet.
dude, I was like, they're going to wipe their iPhones twice and then chop them up into little bits and then microwave them. I'm like, dude, that seems like a little overkill, but I don't know. I got to go to Martin. Like, Martin, is that overkill? Or can I just wipe my phone and then chop it up with pliers? Like, how much do I need to do to make sure the FBI can't find my data? Like, how much do I have to do?
Reset to factory settings. That will probably do enough the job.
They recommended 2 resets. Get this, 2 resets to factory settings. Dan, did you read this? 2
I don't
resets.
think it matters though, because Facebook and Apple and everybody else already have copies of every message and everything. So I mean, it's not like your physical device even matters that much, right? I'm not sure, but I certainly wouldn't trust that they don't have.
Yeah, they would have had to use a messaging service, and there's probably, in ways of that being that end-to-end messaging being compromised, especially if it was shared with multiple parties. And then if one person, drops the ball, then that drops the ball for everyone's, messages essentially. So yeah, I think whilst it's cool, I actually think that they did it slightly the wrong way around, in that the distributed effort should have been done first, right? Going out to these truckers at the protests, getting them to set up wallets, and then people would donate, wallets, and they would have like a stack of these wallets that are verified kind of publicly, maybe on Twitter or something like that. I don't know, for each wallet and each truck with a license plate number, something like that.
There's ways to do this like over Ethereum or Rootstock, where it's easy to like make votes and things. It's not rocket science. We don't have to trust in any centralized authority. It's easy.
Yeah, but I think
they could even distribute it as you went along. Like once they reach $1,000, it sends everyone $1. Once it reaches 2,000, it sends everyone $1. There's no reason to hoard the money in a big pile other than to get that headline to say that you raised X amount of dollars. That's a really nice headline.
But they could still get that headline anyway, because you have the total amount right before it gets split, and as you're saying, it goes to X and then they get Y and then it goes to Y.
Unless you're really smart and you start donating that money back to your fundraiser, and now it looks like your fundraiser is just growing infinitely as everyone redonates all the money. But
yeah, the issue with that though is like the governance and stuff. So I mean, with some of the other DAOs and things, there's been issues with this. So I mean, with the truckers, we could try to assign an individual, like an address to each of them, and like one truck entitles you to one vote, I guess, kind of like Satoshi's
one truck, one vote, one truck, one vote.
But I mean, it's easier said than done in general. But I think what GoFundMe did is bullshit. And I think that anyone that had their money tied up there for a period of time, there is a time value to money, should fucking sue them, man. It's ridiculous. What they did is wrong. And I'm just telling you, as a money services business, if I did that shit in America, they'd fucking be hammering at my door tomorrow morning. So like stealing people's money, not okay.
I hate to say it too, but like the sector, like obviously GoFundMe, they're they've bowed to lots of other different pressures. But the Christian crowdfunding site, 2 things. 1, God didn't stop them getting hacked, and 2, didn't stop them from getting raided by Due South and the Mountie crew. So like,
I think the Catholic Church is the highest revenue business in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
You go to, it's crazy. You go to St. Peter's and the St. Peter's, the Basilica and stuff, and you just see like gold coated stuff. And then like you see all this poverty around the world, and you're like, couldn't they just sell just a little bit of it? Why don't they do a few little auctions, sell some little bits off, and it will still go to museums and stuff, but we can work a little bit towards hunger. But let's not go down that route.
Yeah, and they can pay for these tax abuse victims.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so I think ultimately, I don't think it's they're showing the fallibility of Bitcoin, because it's just demonstrating the fallibility of a trusted third party service, and and not a non-trustless service. So ultimately, whilst it was a good effort, unfortunately, it didn't work out. I kind of think it's a good thing, because it still has the ignorant people thinking, "Haha, Bitcoin's not completely it is fallible." When actually, this P2P money isn't actually fallible from a hacking perspective. You can't just hack. Obviously, you can put a gun to someone's head, but you can't hack someone's actual wallet. And no one's hacked the network yet. So I think it's still strong. Still got a crazy up rate of like 99.999 ding dong %. And this is just another real world test of integrating trusted third parties and a trustless monetary system.
Well, I would agree that even though we know that Bitcoin didn't fail, there's only so many of these crowdfunding attempts that we can completely miff before the public is going to lose their faith in the uncensorability of Bitcoin. It seems once again, these libertarian ideas, they work well when they're computer programs where we can say on the code, these are going to go to these wallets and so forth, and we're going to shred the printer and all these instructions and so forth. But then there's separate of that, there's time, which they ran out of time. Maybe their plan was too complex. Maybe they, as well as I said,
sometimes there's issues with implementation and execution. Like, it should work like this, but it works like that, and now all of a sudden there's issues. So it's not so simple. But
I think this
people are
gets
going
back
to blame
governance,
Bitcoin and crypto if we do it wrong.
Exactly. And governance, like Mike was saying, with these new DAOs, the attempt to have online governance, voting, proposals, all of these structures. Again, we're talking about government. We're talking about a social contract where people come together and they give up some of their rights in order to gain other rights and privileges that they get from working together, right? And the libertarians might not be so into that. And maybe the anti-vax truckers might not be so into that. If the first thing they said when you arrived at the protest was, hey, sign up on this piece of paper, give us your phone number, your truck address, and your Bitcoin address, and just started checking people in, people would be freaked out. They're like, I'm here to protest. I'm not here to join some organization. But that's what I've always felt about protests. It should be
which truck do you support exactly? Can we get that Ethereum token? This one's a little better than that one. And
maybe he wants his donations in Dogecoin. But Martine, what do you think about this? They have these great ideas. They describe
I think the Dogecoins are somewhere off in space. You can collect them in Mars.
You can collect the Dogecoins, and then at the end of the day, nobody gets any Dogecoin, not even the truckers.
It's a typical example of a central point of failure. When we started with Bitcoin, everybody said, don't trust, verify. So you're a trucker, and the first thing you do is you trust this guy to handle your Bitcoin. So yeah, it was bound to fail in a way. For GoFundMe, I think it's like really like scammy website. If you look at all those GoFundMe listings, most of them are just pure scams. So they have no
like
right.
20 or 30% or some ridiculous amount. I've donated before to them for some like marijuana movement things, and like people only get a fraction of the money at the end. I agree. Yes. They're very scammy.
So I used to lend money on BTC Jam, and it was an ultimate disaster as well. People took the money, they didn't pay it back. And I can imagine it's just as bad in these crowdfunding sites.
There's even a South Park episode about GoFundMe. So, if they made it to South Park, you can't trust them.
No, but it's fucked.
It is a typical example of, trusting a third party with your Bitcoin, and then the trusted third party hands over the private keys because, hey, I don't want to get arrested. So, there's something to learn from this, that, we shouldn't trust a third party with our Bitcoin. And this is why, people should learn to keep their private keys.
There's multi-sig technology and things like this where we don't need to centralize the ability to intimidate someone to give up their private keys.
Correct. You can even split a recovery seat from your wallet nowadays. If somebody would put a gun against my head, I don't even have a means to transfer the coins because I don't have access to it. So there's all ways to protect yourself. But if you're protesting, you probably got other things on your mind, and then you're happy to trust this third party. But it's something I think people should learn from. And yes, the network hasn't been compromised. Bitcoin is secure as ever. Bitcoin will remain secure. It is unconfiscated.
But now we have a little spit in our face about, oh, crypto this and that, and they didn't get their money, and it has nothing to do with us. But people are still going to look at us and say, hey, it was Bitcoin in the end, not it was these GoFundMe scammers.
No, it was people being stupid. It's not Bitcoin. Sorry, you can press Bitcoin.
Say that Bitcoin's equal with GoFundMe. That both of them failed to raise money for the truckers, so it's an equality.
I'll give you the normie point of view. The normie point of view is people don't even recognize that Bitcoin failed or didn't fail. Like, we all know Bitcoin didn't fail. What they do recognize, though, is that a government they thought was like a quote unquote good government will swipe money. And that, for a lot of normies, I know a lot of my friends were like, holy crap. Like, that was a wake up call. They had no idea that was going to happen in the West. They just didn't believe
it. But unfortunately, if you really look at their tactics, they crossed the line from protest to blockade. Now, I'm a lefty liberal. I wanted to stop the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and all these things. I think we should. I think we should have blocked the streets, right? But right here, when they did block the streets, what happened is what they always told me was happened. They lost the respect of being a protest. They lost that protection.
I have to disagree with you. And to be very clear, I had 100 ATMs arrive in Vancouver about a month ago and had to spend twice as much money. And I lost money on the delays while they were getting trucked to Calgary, where our warehouse is. But very clearly, I think these guys were peaceful. I think the way the Canadian government handled it was wrong. I absolutely agree with them. And even as a business in Canada, at my expense, I am not angry at them at all. But I mean, if you compare that to what happened in Washington and these kind of places in the United States where they were throwing bombs through windows and shooting people and whatever else, stop your trucks until you get what you want. And
again, if that's our perspective, it's very easy to do that. It's very inexpensive to do that. When you block the streets and you block the flow of commerce in a capitalist country, you're blocking what matters, right? You're blocking the thing that's brought us together as a society.
But in that case, like, you can arrest them. There are legal remedies you can do that to grab their money, to make them a non-person by grabbing their bank accounts. When does that become a thing?
The irony was probably mostly socialists that were angry at the capitalist truckers.
Well, again, it's
delivering their goods and services.
Whether you like it or not, with the issue of terrorism, if you donate to the IRA or to some kind of organization, they're going to block your funding. So if they see this blockading of cities, which again it's an extra level up from protesting. You can be mad.
It was simple, easy. The prime minister, or president, or whatever they call him over there, he should have said, Trumbro or whatever his name is. He should have said, listen, fine, we're going to be easier on the COVID things for the truckers. We appreciate you guys. Let's get back to work. But instead they were like, we're going to arrest you.
I don't know where you guys are coming from, but if the prime minister rolls over so easily and you can just rent a bunch of trucks and block the street and get whatever you want from the government, we've lost all form of democratic government. If they want to change the vaccine things, they should run for office. They should work on ground up things. You can't just block the streets and say, do what I want, because that could lead to what?
He did support the protests in India, though. He supported the farming protests in India, where they did almost the same thing. So to be tweeting about your support in solidarity with like the farmers in India blocking stuff, and then going, no, we're going to literally kill everyone's lives in terms of finances because it's in your own turf. That does seem a bit slightly hypocritical, one might say. But just one final point I was going to make is that if these people who had their assets frozen, who were caught, dropping $20 on GoFundMe or whatever to the trucking protest,
or bringing a can of gasoline,
Well, and bring in a can of gasoline. If they actually had already had their funds in Bitcoin and it was in their own private wallets, their funds wouldn't have been frozen. So, to the people the Canadians that did actually have their assets in Bitcoin, they came almost unscathed because Bitcoin proved itself in being unconfiscatable. It was only the ones that went through this donation program that got caught out using Bitcoin.
I like a nice peaceful protest, and I don't think there was a lot of violence or anything going on in general with the stuff in the truckers protest. And I think that the way that the prime minister handled it by taking it to a level of, listen, we're going to fucking take your livelihood, we're going to seize your assets, these kind of things. This is like this is like ridiculous. This is what we do to Putin or whatever for attacking Ukraine. This is not what we do to people. Okay, I agree with Thomas. It is an issue to have the truckers stopping everything, but at the end of the day, they're not like out there with guns. Nobody's like,
again, there's such a thing as economic violence. All the people in the city
government escalated
couldn't
it.
go to work, all the people in the city that had their apartments full of gas from the trucks running, all these people that like the GM plant that couldn't get the supplies, all these things were affected. So you can't just say only
Well, that happened during the lockdowns,
not
though,
economies or violence. And the reason, unfortunately, that it does require
I paid like $40,000 to have ATMs moved from Vancouver to Calgary, and it should have been 10,000 because of this fucking thing. So I mean, I lost money because of their protest, but I'm saying I agree why they're protesting.
The thing you realize, Thomas, is by your methodology, which is they can make you a non-person for any reason they deem without a court like process. If you can just make people non-people by taking away their wealth and their funds immediately without due process of law, we're lost, man. Because what you are then is they have totalitarian control over every single person. Every single person.
You can't blockade cities.
No, Thomas, I agree. We have that all the time in Costa Rica. And what they do,
army inside of a country blockading cities.
Thomas, we deal with that all the time in Costa Rica. The red cap,
backbone of the
they arrest the people and they impound their cars. That's what they do. But they don't take their bank accounts. They arrest the people and they impound their cars. That's what they do. They don't take their bank accounts. Like you arrest the people.
I mean, you have to look at the tactics and logistics of this. The government got a slow start. They didn't attack them as quickly as maybe they should have. Then the fundraising, which actually most of the fundraising came from overseas and from millionaires. And you have to look at it that they were supporting the blockade. So they were going to make the blockade inside your country go longer. You can't have people blockading cities inside your country. You can't have people donating money to people who blockade cities inside your country. Once again, I was for these tactics when we were stopping wars and things, but we didn't do them. And the reason that people didn't do them is because of this. They've lost the protection of peaceful protests when they blockade cities. It's not a peaceful blockade. It's a blockade. Like, you guys aren't seeing like.
So why can't you arrest them, Thomas?
Exactly.
They did arrest them.
What's the problem? You don't need to steal their bank accounts.
Like you want to protest,
they lost control of the situation. If you look at the situation, they didn't get on it quickly. They lost control of it, and it was ballooning out of control. So yes, they may have used financial tactics that you disagree with, but the core of this comes when you make the bad choice to blockade cities. Like maybe
I think maybe 300 shows.
Maybe their quest is that they're right.
Thomas, you realize you're on a Bitcoin show now, right?
Again, you can't blockade cities. Like, you guys have to look at military history, and you can't blockade cities. You lose your right of being a peaceful protest when you blockade cities. Like, I'm very sorry to explain this to you guys. Like, I'll do it again and again and again. You can't blockade cities. Look at Kiev. He's blockading cities, and people are not approving of it, right? They're not like, hey, Russia's got the right to protest what they're doing there. You know, they're blockading the cities. Come on, people. Like, just because you agree with blockade, you're like, but this is our blockade.
I don't agree with blockade.
This is our blockade.
I don't agree with blocking them, but I agree with Adam that you can't just like deleting them basically from a cashless society where everybody needs their cards to do anything. It's just wrong, you know. It's like
Thomas, tell me this: how's the person who just got arrested supposed to defend themselves if they don't have money to pay for a lawyer?
Yeah, or even a snicker from the machine.
How?
Yeah.
How can I defend myself
Eggs.
if you've taken my bank account so I can't pay a lawyer?
Likely a public defender. You'll likely get your account
Oh,
back.
that's a good
They
chance
give
of
you, they
success.
give you
Okay,
the
buddy.
worst one ever. They
Keep
give
up
you
with
like
that,
my
dude.
cousin
Wait.
Vinny.
Maybe you should support the public defender system, though. Maybe you should have a more
No.
robust system of public defense. I mean, you can't just claw out at other parts of the system when you're upset because you were arrested for blockading a city. Come on.
So
What are you
what
talking
I'm
about?
all
percentage
for
of the
arresting.
Bitcoin
I'm just saying you
transaction
don't.
fee
You
should we
can't
Wasn't-
cancel
take for these
people.
This
public
That's
wasn't
all.
even the
defenders?
topic as well. Like the topic is
No. Now
the
you want
topic
to kill
is
the
they
discussion.
screwed
huh?
up and they couldn't get any money to these people, which we predicted here on the show. And everyone's like, come on, they're not going to screw up. Bitcoin's unstoppable. And I'm like, but they'll screw up on the government part because they don't like government and they don't want to do government. And whenever things get complicated, like when they get called out for blockading a city, which is not acceptable, then they're all like, oh, but this is our blockade. No, this is the liberty blockade of freedom. And again, where'd the money go? They could have donated the money to a charity and it would have done more good than having it frozen by the Canadian authorities and having everyone
registered
say,
charity.
oh, Bitcoin gets frozen. Bitcoin gets frozen when you donate it, just like the other things. So exit question, why did the fundraiser fail? Why was it so obvious? And why did no one get any money from this? Dan, Eve.
Well, it's the the trusted third parties. That's the point why Bitcoin's so strong, is because it's a trustless, permissionless system. And as soon as you have trusted third parties, that's where you have a kink in the chain, as it were, the blockchain, the blockchain to the human chain. And that's where the point of failure is. And unfortunately, governments can't hack the blockchain, but they can hack people and they can hack their lives and hack away at them by freezing their finances and doing other really creepy stuff.
Martine Wishmayer, why did it fail?
Dan is right. There's a third party, and it's trust us, then don't trust, verify. So keep your Bitcoins in a private wallet. Don't leave them on exchanges. Well, unless it's you're trading with them, and just keep them in your own control. And once you're like used to that, run your own node. And instead of using Bitcoin, you can be Bitcoin. So
It's not don't trust, verify. It's trust but verify. You can trust, but you can verify.
No, you can't trust. You got to verify.
You have to trust the network.
That's true. That's true, because you've.
Oh, and Martin just hung up on you. What the heck, Martin? You went away, brother. Oh, he's back.
Mic drop.
But we're
Yeah,
both
that's
in
a
the
good point.
ATM space. Maybe he doesn't like me. I don't know what to
You
say.
got to trust the software. You've got to
no,
trust the
no.
hardware. You've got to trust the airwaves. You've got to trust the encryption. So there is an element of trust.
Yeah, but you trust the computer technology, and technology is either broken or it's working, and it's not like humans that change their mind. So yeah, I have more faith in technology than I have in politicians and humans, to be honest.
I thought you were supposed to trust no one. Adam McBride, why did the fundraiser fail?
Actually, I think it succeeded in a far more important way, which is telling us, a global community, what our governments are willing to do. And giving us basically your point of view, Thomas, which is fine. You can hold that point of view, but it awakens enough people, a whole bunch of new people who never really got what Bitcoin's about. And this sort of has awakened just a whole group of people. Like if this had happened under Donald Trump, God help us, we'd be screaming to the roofs about authoritarian and how he's Hitler. And it happens in Canada with Mr. Nice Guy up there, and he's super cool and he's beautiful looking. And he did it. I'm telling you, I have dozens of friends who are like, holy cow, I had no idea. Tell me more about this Bitcoin thing. And that's where we are. So I actually think it was a good thing overall for free people the world over.
Mike Dupree, why did the fundraiser fail?
I'm not sure, but I think in general, some fundraisers have been very successful, and that it's not a broken technology. It was a broken implementation. We need to remove GoFundMe and decentralized authorities, use DAOs. We have the technology to do this with multi-sigs and stuff like that. It's easily done with many other projects. We should try again and raise these guys some money. And this time not allow there to be any centralized point of failure where they can put a gun to someone's head or seize a account, or a company can decide what they think is morally correct or not.
If only we had used DAOs and NFTs, everything would have been fine. Moving on to issue 4. 6 months in, El Salvador's Bitcoin gamble is crumbling. The price of Bitcoin is down. El Salvador is launching its Bitcoin bond, saying that it's all or nothing, that the project must succeed. Meanwhile, no one wants to live in a Bitcoin city near a volcano, and many others are wondering if the dictator with the backwards hat has gone too far. Dan,
The dictator? You mean the CEO of El Salvador?
Whatever, when you claim power by in a violent ceremony by making them forced to vote for you, you're kind of a dictator. Sorry to get too much into the terms. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on El Salvador and their suddenly all or nothing Bitcoin bonds?
Well, I personally think it sounds quite cool to live next to a volcano, because you might have a bit more like warning of an eruption than like, you know, they had in the Pompeii days, and that. So, you know, but obviously, what you would do is centralize a load of Bitcoiners in that particular town, which probably makes it a bit of a target, right? If you and imagine if you centralize people enough and it becomes that popular and everyone's like all Bitcoin and they're all holding their own private keys, and then it's like some other crazy not some other crazy dictator. I wasn't saying like, but a crazy dictator in another part of the world is like, oh, okay, everyone's getting too dependent on Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. They could then go and like nuke the Bitcoin city and then wipe out loads of Bitcoin supply. And then that's got a whole other like host of problems. So yeah, fair enough. El Salvador had some, some rollout issues using Chivo Wallet, and they do seem like they're remedying that. Obviously, it hasn't helped that Bitcoin.
Do you guys actually understand the implications of Chivo Wallet, though, and the Chivo Wallet system?
When you say the implications, as in it was kind of, it seems like it was I wouldn't say a backhander, but like it was like
it's a Lightning network where you don't hold your own keys.
Yeah.
And if it's not your keys, it's not your Bitcoin. I just want to be very clear. We have ATMs in El Salvador, but we've been down there since the beginning. We have very big concerns about the way that they're implementing it and the true fungibility of the El Salvadorian Bitcoins versus a standard Bitcoin. Additionally, the potential for them to have like a fractional reserve of Bitcoins. Like if it's only a paper Bitcoin and you don't hold the keys, how do you know that they don't have 500,000 Bitcoins on the books and only 100,000 Bitcoins in the reserve, like the United States does with gold? Anyways,
and this issue really came to light when El Salvador started to give out, I don't know, something like $1,000 each to each of their people, but then they only gave you
$30 each.
It was in the Chivo wallet. It was the $30, and we don't know unless they cashed all of those out whether they actually gave that Bitcoin, or like Mike said, they could have fractionally reserved that Bitcoin. So that's a whole nother shoe waiting to drop. Dan, do you have more on El Salvador?
Yeah, well, that was definitely the biggest issue. That it's a Lightning wallet, but it's custodial. There are also, I think, issues with how it was the company that owned it, that it was kind of linked via family members, and so it seemed like it was a bit of a side deal. Rather than going for the best technology, it was going for something that kind of made everyone happy. But ultimately, I think they've mainly been stung from an outward perspective by the fact that Bitcoin has been taken from gone from like 69K down to 40. So everyone's kind of like going, oh well, Bitcoin's dropped and it's a terrible decision. And obviously people aren't used to the fluctuations, right? People slowly get into Bitcoin. It makes your heart stop when your assets suddenly drop 20%, even if you're like a fly by the seat of your pants kind of a roadside cafe or whatever that's taken, a couple of $100 for the day, and it drops 20% or 15%, that's going to hit you hard until you start realizing that if you're holding for the long term and whatever, and you're being a bit more projection based on your stock and trying to forecast a bit better, it takes a while to get your head around. So yeah, I think ultimately there's going to be naysayers, but I think they're on the right track. And again, going back to this rule that if you hold for like 4+ years, then eventually you'll be back in the green.
Martin Wishmayer, El Salvador used to be all powerful and amazing and strong country. Then suddenly the price is down, and now the Bitcoin bond must succeed. What's going on in El Salvador?
Yeah, I think, as Dan said, it has to do with the current price. If the price would have been going up, like Plan B predicted, 100K or more, then everything would, everybody would still be cheering. And now they're like, probably getting a lot of negative reviews and I told you so, and this was bound to fail. So, on the Bitcoin bonds, that's just not for me. I want to hold Bitcoin. I don't want to hold a promise of Bitcoin or some fiat based returns. I honestly don't care about that. But maybe it's something for someone else. I do applaud them for trying. They didn't have their own currency, so why not adopt Bitcoin in that case? So it makes sense because the monetary policy behind Bitcoin is known. It's 21 million, and there will never be any more. With the dollar, which they had before that, or they still have, you don't know how many dollars there will be, like new dollars there will be like next month. So yeah, it did make sense, and I think it still does make sense. And I still think it's like kind of brave to do that. But I agree with Michael. He said we do have our reservations on how they implemented this. I think it was just like a quick way to implement it and get it
They
up
rushed
and
it
running.
very fast. And
Yeah.
in the end of the day, if it's not correct and people lose money, they're going to end up blaming us, not the El Salvador CEO.
You're right.
I still think they're trying to find out how many Bitcoin you could fit into a briefcase and sneak out of the country, but we'll see how that goes.
0. You shouldn't do that. Just send them on the interwebs.
I also agree with what Martin was saying that why would you buy these bonds when you could just buy Bitcoin? And even the article itself, it was like, why not just buy Bitcoin directly? Why have all this stress?
You're buying publicity. So what if you're buying a bond that's really not as valuable as Bitcoin is, but because of the artificial inflation and them arbitrarily creating additional Bitcoins that don't really exist, maybe the first few people will get in on the pump and dump before everyone realizes. I'm not saying it's a scam. I don't know this for sure. I'm just saying, like, I'm very cautious about El Salvador in general because they're not being fully transparent. And what they're doing is it's not fungible, and it doesn't really articulate to the true, like, decentralized kind of thing. Why do we need Bitcoin through our government?
It does expose a problem in their system, and that's probably why they created these layers like the Chivo wallet, where they can still maintain control and maybe not even give out all the money. And then now these strange bonds. It's that old thing. Everyone comes to Bitcoin. They're like, this is the perfect currency. I could attach something to this. I could make a Coinbase. I could make a bond. But is it just that the price is down and it's causing worries? Josh Shigala, your thoughts on El Salvador, where suddenly the bonds are all or nothing and the backwards hat has to make all his money back, or it's a huge problem.
And hey,
Yeah,
Josh, welcome to the
bonds
show. Sorry, I stepped away for a second when you joined, but it's really good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm so
Been a
sorry.
minute.
I didn't realize that the clocks had changed.
Well, the clocks have changed in America. So in the US, they went 1 hour ahead, but they are already
Congress
so
made
many
this
hours
permanent now,
behind.
so it'll probably be affecting you guys soon. Just wait for the bulletin to get out.
That's how powerful governments are. They can change the time, space-time continuum. I agree with the panel here. Like, the Bitcoin bonds are a strange concept, but I do like the experimentation. I like that the government has tried this. I think it's the thing. It's all about timing with this stuff, especially bonds, because bonds form really at the time where it's a bull market. So because depending on the maturity date, I mean, it depends also what they do with the underlying collateral, right? So if they go and put this stuff into DeFi or lend it out and get more Bitcoin back and actually build up the underlying reserve, your bond might mature worth a little bit more. It's
or
you know,
the
I haven't
opposite,
looked
if they're
into
not
the
transparent with it and they go throwing around money in the wrong places, you could lose your ass.
Yeah, totally. So you know, in one side, that's the good side. The other side that's the bad side. What Mike just stated there, and knowing humans, it's usually the bad side because they get greedy, they screw things up. So one thing that could save them though is if they really worked a little bit more transparently with multi-sig wallets, with DAOs, like build a government DAO where people vote on where allocation of funds are and treasuries and stuff. This would be really interesting. I think El Salvador's
not
really
going
put
that
its neck
direction
out
at all. They're
in
not
front of a
doing
line.
governance style at all.
What's that?
It's not going that way though at all. They're not planning to do like a governance DAO or something. They're literally just saying, trust the government. We'll hold your Bitcoins. You don't get your private keys. Use our ATMs and put your money in Bitcoin and trust us. And like, that's the complete opposite of what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, totally.
And the problem with your new system is it gives power to all these new people. So of course, existing power is not going to go for it.
And it also it allows the state to hold the entire economy to ransom as well, because if they get voted out, they're like, well, we're going to take the keys. We're taking the keys. So they're sort of
if when they get voted out, there's even anything left in the reserve, and there's really nothing technologically, algorithmically preventing them from just stealing everyone's Bitcoin. I'm not saying they would do this. I'm not good friends with the president or something, but the reality is that technologically nothing prevents that. And the whole part of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is removing that ability via technology for someone to be able to just run off.
Yeah.
I agree with you though. If the president had a DAO and everything, and the governance was correct and all that, and the keys were public and everybody could see what's going on, ideally, that would be great. But I don't think that's what we have here.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening either. Adam McBride, you were mad at Trudeau when he was freezing accounts. Could you imagine if all of the country's money and spending power was in the Chivo wallet and you could shut down anyone's wallet at any time? You can't even buy a Coca-Cola. It's all over for you.
I know it's hard to believe, but how little I trust the Canadian government, I trust the El Salvadorian government even less. Like way less, man. I mean, dude, I live here in Central America. Bro, you can't trust these governments at all. Zero. And we all know, like the CEO of El Salvador, he's done this because it's a fantastic publicity stunt for him. He gets, dude, he's set for the rest of his life. He gets to travel the globe, hang out with Bitcoiners, all this sort of stuff. But dude, this is
a backwards hat.
Yeah, dude, this, you know, Mike's got it completely right. This is a complete cluster.
He behaves like a rapper when he's on stage and stuff. He just thinks he's like a cool rapper kind of.
Yeah. And look, they got a bunch of their citizens to sign up because they got $30 free, and $30 free is significant for them. This is not like nothing. This is like a couple of days of work for a lot of people.
No, it's more than that. I think the average wage is like $1 or $2 a day.
Yeah.
So it's
almost the idea that basically these poor people are going to become Bitcoin enthusiasts and guard their keys and stuff, like that's never for most of those people, that's not going to happen. It is what it is. We got to look at it and say, look, this is just a government doing something. But do I would trust it? Absolutely not. Zero. I would buy exactly zero of those bonds. And if I could short the bonds, I probably would be shorting the bonds.
It's not nice to say, but this wasn't the right country for this. And we said it in the beginning. And we also said, sure, we can't stop them from using Bitcoin. We don't want to slow them down. Give them all the help files you can. Send them all the people you want to. But we need a technologically ready country. We need a country that's already Bitcoin curious, where the government announces it pushes them over the edge. Like we've seen in the article, many people were upset. They felt the government was forcing Bitcoin upon them. They felt that this Bitcoin somehow only served the Bitcoin visitors, the travelers and things.
Most people don't even have a smartphone in El Salvador. So, I mean, your average person is not like on the, I think 70% of people in El Salvador do not have a bank account. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's correct. So we're not talking about people here are like hey, government, please help me with my money. They're like, yeah, we're using US dollars, which is their official currency, and they're kind of working fine for us. It's dependent upon the US government. We don't really need you to come in and issue new currency and whatever's going on with this Bitcoin. And are you giving away money to foreigners? What are you supporting here? What's the people, I think in general, are confused.
Oh, and just like with the convoy, we want to imagine that they're getting the best possible version of Bitcoin, that they're going to print out their wallets and they're going to hold their own keys and they're going to do all this stuff. But in reality, the actual Bitcoin they're getting are this Chivo wallet. And when it fails, if it fails, sorry, they'll take all the money and they'll blame Bitcoin. And we'll hear on and on about how Bitcoin was a scam and they thought it was a scam in the first place. And then it paid off. Mike Dupree, I hear you're running out of battery life there. You might have to leave us. Is there anything you wanted to say in celebration of this 300th episode?
No, Thomas Hunt. Yeah, I'll say a little thing. Is just thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I haven't seen you in a while because of Corona, but you're always welcome back. Well, I'm not in Barcelona, I'm in Acapulco, but you're always welcome back in Barcelona sometime. And really a pleasure. Josh, I'm sorry we only had a second to chat. And Martin, always great to see you. And Dan and Brian, right?
Adam.
Sorry.
The NFT guy.
The NFT archaeologist.
But yeah, really.
Dude, you gotta go do a pool plunge for us, man. You're gonna run and jump in the pool.
Yeah,
Nobody wants
Let's
to
do
do
it.
that. We don't want to get him kicked off of YouTube or whatever. So I'll do the pool plunge
come
after
on,
I
do it. It says in the chat, do a cannonball. Cannonball.
But really great,
Cannonball,
Thomas.
cannonball.
Congratulations on the 300th episode and all these things. And I completely agree with everybody here that with El Salvador in general, we should be for this kind of thing, but we should be cautious. And we have to remember at the end of the day, they're not going to remember the CEO of El Salvador. They're going to remember the Bitcoin that everybody lost their asses on. And that's where we have to be very cautious to, But again, we are theorizing here. For all we know, these bonds are going to be the most valuable in the world in 10 years. And El Salvador is the most perfect financial haven in the world. Who knows? But,
No, I mean, we just to tap onto the rest of that, we saw also the oil bonds was it oil bonds or was tokenized oil coming out of Venezuela. So again, total scam. What's happened to that? Are they actually using it? I don't know. It sort of disappeared.
Oh, yeah, I remember now they made their own coin, the Venezuela coin.
Petro.
Yeah, the Petro.
I think Biden's working with them on that, and they're going to make a pipeline or something. Anyways, happy 300th show, Thomas. Thank you for inviting me. It was great to see everyone. Peace, love, love. Cheers.
Cheers, Mike.
Ciao,
Make a
Mike.
cannonball. Do a cannonball.
Cannonball.
I can't do it. But
Cannonball.
I gotta go.
Cannonball.
Bye, guys.
Cannonball.
Whoa.
All right, we're going to move on to the next issue. Check out the WCN Clips account where now you could subscribe. We've got 92 subscribers. We only need 8 people in the audience to Google WCN Clips and subscribe to WCN Clips. These are great little clips of these show. They're smaller. I'll bet we do one about us fighting about blockades, and then you can share it with your friends and ask them to watch the show. So check out WCN Clips. Thanks to the WCN Clips guy for doing this, all of his hard work.
Yeah, man. He's just beavering away. What a champion. What a champion.
And maybe someday we'll get some old clips on here too, do some classic clips. Moving on to issue 5, Wasabi Wallet. Wasabi Wallet, a famous privacy wallet similar to Samurai Wallet, has run into trouble. They've decided to pre-censor Bitcoin transactions before they allow you to use their CoinJoin software. So if your Bitcoin address was on a bad list, you wouldn't be able to use the CoinJoin software to attempt to hide or to disguise the source of your funds. Many are upset with Wasabi, which focused heavily on privacy and now is delivering this less than exciting update. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on the Wasabi Wallet controversy?
Well, privacy is always like a really difficult thing to discuss, because some people say like, oh, we need full transparency. Well, I say it's difficult to discuss as in just because you suggest that you want to be private with your transactions and certain data, people suggest that they link it to this nefarious activity. And Bitcoin obviously is there's still that stigma of it being the incorrect stigma that it's a completely private, sort of permissionless money system, and it's used for only nefarious activities and kidnappings and money laundering and terrorism and all the bad things that they say. But obviously, it's a public blockchain. But privacy is more than just being able to hide financial transactions. Obviously, there's things like wages that you don't, people don't know publicly what your wages are. Mostly, they don't know what your life savings are. They don't know what your political interests are, even hobbies that you might be embarrassed. Maybe you're a knitting connoisseur and you're not quite, you don't want the guys at the rugby club to find out that you. But the fact is, privacy.
So many of us have been hiding our knitting backgrounds.
Privacy is more than just hiding something that's dodgy, right? It's your right to having a space where you can message, and whether that's a message, and communicating, whether that's communicating with money or communicating with something else. It's something that I think that you have as a right as privacy. But there is obviously the debate that anything that's private should be actually in the public domain, because otherwise it means that you've got something to hide. And I really hate that saying, right? That just because you do something, and you want it to be private, there's a reason that you've got to hide it. But they do seem, Wasabi, like they're trying to be ahead of the curve, right? The regulation hammer, let's face it, is gonna come down pretty hard. I think unfortunately, there's and even Kraken, like Jesse has said, keep your coins off exchanges ultimately, because the regulation hammer is going to come down, and when it does, they're going to have to abide or they'll get shut down, and no one wants to get shut down. Because it means you end up becoming the whack-a-mole. So there's some things you've got to concede to, and privacy is, whilst you want to protect it at the same time, you also want to stay alive as a company, because that's what provides you and your staff a means of living, and that's your goal is to provide a service. And sometimes you've got to kind of keep on the train tracks of regulation. But yeah, I think they're trying to distance themselves from the nefarious side of all the coin joins being used only for bad things. So as a business move, they've kind of got to do it, otherwise they're going to be forced out of the system. And I don't know, it's a very difficult thing, but ultimately, Chain Snitch and Co. These services sniffing around the blockchain, they're only going to proliferate. They're only going to become more common, right? Chain Snitch is the one that everyone knows. But as the regulators grow stronger, as their powers go stronger, all the analytics is going to grow stronger. And so, you're going to get caught out eventually if you are doing anything nefarious. So in a way, in an odd way, all the chain sniffing could lead to people, more proof that Bitcoin's used for actual positive activity than the negative activity. So even though it's a shit thing, people snooping on transactions, it could turn out for the better of Bitcoin, because there'll be more research that shows that Bitcoin's used for the good and not for the bad.
It really does seem like it was set up to fail from the beginning. If you say, I'm going to build a secret system where you can send around all your money and no one will know about it, but we're setting up a traditional corporation and we're taking venture capital and you can find our office at this address, it seems like there was always going to be this problem. Now, maybe they've forced their hand here by saying they're going to do this pre-check for every address that enters the system. But again, it just seemed badly set up from the beginning. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, these new ideas of raising money, such as DAOs and other things, although it failed with Dark Wallet, there was no Dark Wallet product, but there were a lot of money donated, still is probably your best chance at getting this kind of software. But even then, would you be able to trust the software if it was produced by such a shadowy group of individuals? Martine Wishmayer, your thoughts about the Wasabi failure?
Yeah, I've been told it's going to be forked into Wasabi Cash. And that will have no such scanning abilities. And Wasabi Cash will be the real Wasabi. So I'm not sure what will happen there, but I read that there is a way around it. You can set up your own mixing coin join group, but there is nothing in the configuration that allows you to change it. So you'd have to start editing config files, which it basically means that you and your friends can mix coins together and spend together. So it totally defeats the purpose. I think they more or less killed the company on this one, and it's sad to see. I do like any new initiatives in Bitcoin that try to increase its privacy, because as Dan said, it's important that there is some privacy. Just people that say, "Oh, I have nothing to hide," usually have nothing to say either. So I think everybody has a right to a little bit of privacy, even if it's just to prevent everyone from knowing your entire Bitcoin stack. So, but yeah, for Wasabi, I don't know. At first, there's another product, I believe, Samurai Wallet. And they were like the competitors. They were like the two Japanese named wallets that would give privacy to Bitcoin. So I think somebody at Samurai is probably laughing and think, we won. But for Wasabi, I don't think it's too late. I think they should just fork into a new product, and it could be all the same developers, but then, I don't know, name Wasabi Cash might not be a good name for the wallet. I think I read somewhere somebody suggested Sake, because if you have Sake wallet and you have Wasabi wallet, and so it stays in this Japanese naming convention, and but I never used those wallets either, to be honest. I like it from a new technology viewpoint, but I have no real need for it in daily use. So I hope it get fixed.
Waiting for
Sounds like
Bukaki wallet.
Bukaki. We'll see if the source is mightier than the sword with Wasabi versus Samurai.
It is funny, all these privacy wallets with the Japanese names. Of course, there's a quick workaround. If you are a criminal and you're really fast and your address isn't in the list yet, you could still mix your coins. But what if your address was added to the bad list by mistake? Joshua Shigala, what would happen if you were bad listed by mistake?
Yeah, I mean, we've been running Voltoro.com since 2015, and as regulations are built up and up over time, we've had to comply with all of this stuff with regulations, and we can see what we see in the back end. And funnily enough, what doesn't make sense to me is that if your coins have been through a mixer, then they get flagged. So at the start you get checked. Have you got anything dodgy? No. Okay, go through the mixer. Next time you try to use it, you won't be able to use it because you went through your own wallet. The thing is, this has been a problem with Bitcoin since day one, is that privacy only works if we do it for everything all the time. If we only do it for like part-time, the people that need it the most will be people that are doing stuff that is a little bit more of need of that sort of thing, or people that are really, really privacy centric. And you're right. Like, if you're running a business, I don't want all my employees knowing exactly how much every employee is getting paid, because you're making deals. Some people feel that they're better than they are, and there's all sorts of dynamics there. The other thing is, if you're running a business, you don't want your customer to know where you're sourcing your goods from or what your markup is. Like, these are just standard things in normal business, and why you need privacy. So these idiots that go on about like, ooh, we got nothing to hide. Yeah, go on then, show everything. Well, pull down your pants, show it all. It's just silly. So it's the most naive nonsense to say that you don't need privacy. And so, of course, you need privacy. And really, this is sort of why Monero and such really are important. But I think what will happen is that Bitcoin, my hope is that Bitcoin becomes so entrenched and it slowly starts bringing in like functions like Mast and what's the thing that Charlie Lee's put into Litecoin now? It's slipped my mind, but it's also a privacy feature. And as these features start coming in, I'm hoping that eventually it just happens where all of a sudden the entire network, including the network of merchants, suddenly upgrade, and hey presto, everything's more private. That's my hope, because it does. What happens is that once you put brakes on things, you can see it with this wallet. No one's going to use this wallet anymore. If you start putting in, if you start having to like weird laws, like you need to check for ones that you have one Satoshi that was in a weird transaction 3 transactions ago. Yeah, so it is where, although there are points in certain regulations where if something goes to a sketchy market, you cannot really flag that too much. Like you can flag it internally, but it's not guilt, because they might have accidentally done it. They might have, there's a whole bunch of scenarios where you have the benefit of the doubt on the side of the law. So yeah, it's a very, very complex topic. My wish is that we go full privacy and let good old-fashioned police work deal with the abhorrent criminals that are just in society, that are doing all sorts of horrible stuff. And rather than trying to stop the money flow, because stopping the money flow stops a vast. I feel there's a further there's more to be lost by doing that than there is to be gained by stopping the crime. So stopping the money is very, very new. It's not something that it's what, maybe 40, 50 years old, if that. And back then, before that, it was always just good old-fashioned police work. You find the criminal, you find who's doing, you stop them, you arrest them, you put them in prison. Nowadays, it's much more about just stopping the money, because it's a lot easier. And I understand it's a lot easier, but it's also not a good thing for society to put brakes on money. You want that to be as fluid as possible to have an economy, because an economy at the end of the day is only the sum of all transactions that people are doing. And if you're putting handbrakes on transactions, it's terrible, especially a push technology like crypto, that where you're just all of a sudden got these coins that someone's sent to your address. So yeah,
you can taint other people's coins by checking out big addresses and sending them tainted coins, right? And then how many hops is like okay? How many times does a transaction need to or Bitcoin need to move before it's not tainted?
And that's true. You can send it's like tainted Satoshis to like a whole bunch of addresses, and then implicate them on whatever crime you did with your Satoshis. But when you use those analysis tools to scan the incoming transaction, say the coins, then it will clearly say, well, this Dan, he's just sent us 1 Bitcoin, and there was only 1 or 2 Satoshis which were related to drugs, and the other one was gambling, and the other one was armed trade. So there's 3 bad Satoshis there, and the rest is okay. So then it will not really immediately flag it. My major problem with this technology is that what is deemed illegal in one country, say gambling, I know gambling is stupid. People who gamble, they don't know their mouth, but it is illegal in some countries, and it's perfectly legal in other countries. So when we looked at that, we noticed that like gambling is flagged as even more dangerous than gun running. So it gives the ridiculous situation where even though something might be flagged, it might be not a thing at all. It's just maybe a silly gambler, which is not illegal in Europe. It's silly, stupid if you do that, but it's not illegal. Well, you get you score lower on the dodgy scale if you bought arms online. While in Europe, that would be like, oh no, bad person, you bad person. And so it's like, it's the same with like one man's erotica is another man's pornography, but it's the same with the scaling the dodgy Bitcoins. Sorry for the interruption.
I just hope we can keep buying that erotica. We're also joined today. We're very lucky to see Ben Ark. How's it going, Ben? What are your thoughts about Wasabi Wallet and the blocking of certain addresses?
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit late. I feel quite strongly about coin mixing services and coin joins because I think that increasing fungibility on the network is just going to be something which government's going to attack Bitcoin on by emphasizing fungibility and how you've got some tainted coins by allowing some coins and not allowing some other coins. I think it's like a temporary band-aid, which some people need and they need to use. But this kind of like promoting just mixing your coins just to support privacy on the network. I understand the sentiment and where it comes from, but quite often when people talk about that, they don't talk about the implications of it. Like Josh said, someone will they'll go do all their KYC and in order to go buy their coins on some exchange, and then they'll mix them. Then 5 years will pass, those coins will be worth a large sum of money, and then they'll go to buy something in their real material world, such as a house, for example. And in the UK and in Europe, you have anti-money laundering laws, and you have to prove where those funds came from. And if you can't do that, if you have these coins which are just the history's been erased from it, they'll ask questions. Well, why did you do this? Ultimately, Bitcoin, the goal is zero knowledge, that you can send coins to somebody else and it's completely private, and there's no way of tracking where those coins came from. But then the argument would be that then you can't verify supply because you can't, see exactly where all the coins have gone, and you can't do chain analysis, and you can't prove that all the coins which are supposed to be in the system are in the system. So people worry about things like inflation, which may happen. But these are incredibly hard problems which take a long time to solve. I remember Peter Waller doing a talk at one of the Congress, Chaos Communication Congresses, or just more of a chat than a talk actually, and they were saying this is the goal. That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for this zero knowledge, but how do we get there in a way which doesn't, it doesn't work against, and create things like inflation? It's a very hard problem to solve. In this whole like Wasabi debate thing, I think Max Hillebrand had a very good point in one of the Twitter threads. He said it's a private product by a private company. They can do what they want, and that's exactly true. Like, it's a private product by a private company. If you want coin joining done in some decentralized way, which isn't a private product belonging to a private company, then those tools need to be built. But I do think that increasing fungibility and having different variants of coins and privacy can be quite tricky and problematic for Bitcoin. And it's, if you're a government wanting to attack Bitcoin, that's where you attack right there. So like Josh said, hopefully over time, the Bitcoin network will just become more private, and everyone's coins will become more private, and it will be so entrenched in the system, and so much big capital will be in Bitcoin that there won't be large attacks by government. And I think that's a very plausible scenario.
I think like the Lightning Network, I think goes a long way, although it still falls short. But what's interesting with the Lightning Network is it allows for mixing to be extremely cheap. You could just be mixing all day long. It's just it's just like sending around and up and down. And
well, I mean, it mixes. I mean, just it's more private in many ways, isn't it? Because when I send funds to you, there's no way to prove that the funds came from me to you.
Yeah.
Through the Lightning Network, which is why Taproot's important, because you can hide, if everyone starts using Taproot addresses, then you can start to hide. That transaction was a opening of a Lightning channel, so there's no way of proving what then happened to that transaction while it was within the Lightning Network and what you were paying for. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of privacy on chain. I think it's important. I think we need it. I think in order for Bitcoin to work successfully as a money, it needs to be as private as it can possibly be on chain. And I think for a name, maybe Shiitake for the new fork of Wasabi. Shiitake would be pretty good.
I like
I vote for shiitake.
I will say as well, I like Napara a lot, and I feel kind of bad for all the hate he's been getting over this. But I mean, Wasabi did get this huge influx of investor capital which came into Wasabi, and I think that then it meant that it grew, and then they were providing this product in a very commercial way. And then they had to get all the lawyers in the room, and the lawyers were like, okay, well, we're going to get in a lot of trouble if we're mixing coins with and we need to be careful with these UTXOs. And that's the danger of, well, I mean, it just shows that, you know, all these good intentions aside, if you've got a private company which is providing this service, then it is accountable to the jurisdiction which is operating. And there's no way you can get around that unless you do these things in a decentralized, way.
No, it needs to be at a protocol level. It needs to be at a protocol level. We need to get to a point where it's the norm, and that's, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I mean, Lightning goes a long way.
Yeah.
All I know is if I trade my dirty coins for your dirty coins, they come out clean. Adam McBride, your thoughts on the Wasabi privacy issue?
Dude, you guys got me so fucking terrified to buy Bitcoins, thinking I might be buying fucking dirty coins, dude. I did not realize. I mean, I've heard about it, but I didn't realize
those would be collector's item coins.
Hey, Adam. I mean, Bitcoin's the least of your problems. NFTs are the heart of all money laundering right now. I gotta just put it out there.
Bro, I wish I had more money to launder, man. I wish, you know.
What I think
I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. Get more privacy, not less. Like more privacy, and whether that happens on Bitcoin or Lightning, or you know, if it happens at the protocol level, amazing. But I mean, we see what's happening, right? These companies are now terrified. They're seeing what's happening on a global scale with governments around the world. They're trying to take preemptive steps to keep themselves safe because they want to have, you know, companies that function and can make money. And, you know, whether it happens on a protocol level, which you guys seem to think is unlikely. Okay, so what's the next thing? I mean, are these things built on a level like this gets forked and it's just done by like an anonymous organization does something like this? I don't know, man. You guys, you guys are the experts to tell me.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
I was just going to say, maybe in a sweet or ironic touch, as governments get more and more into Bitcoin, they'll realize that the governments don't want their own transactions to be so public, and therefore they'll be advocates of privacy. They'll be like, oh, we can't just have all of our transactions public, so we need to have more private transactions on the Bitcoin network. And that will be the driver of privacy being pushed in Bitcoin.
I love that strategy. That's a great strategy.
Well, it's quite true. I have and this was, man, over 6 or 7 years ago, talked to high up bankers who, when, you know, we would be like, why don't you guys start working with Bitcoin? And the answer that came back from two major ones that I talked to was it's not private enough. So, you know, there's that. But one thing that's very fascinating, and I hope that Bitcoin can get there somewhere as well, is that Ethereum, for instance, is less private than Bitcoin. It doesn't have the whole UTXO stuff. It's you know, you have one address, everything goes back and forth to the one address. And so it's quite easy to track. There's none of that sort of, is that the change address? Is it not? Is, you know, although all the chainalysis stuff or snitchalysis stuff can see past that, there still is, in a court of law, one of the main pillars of a court of law in a democratic modern society is the beyond a shadow of a doubt concept, to be held guilty. And this is the thing that a lot of the mixers or the Bitcoin model of address and change addresses is that it does mix in that tiny bit of shadow of a doubt. So it can, you know, help people out in that way. You know, I'm not advocating criminals get away with stuff or anything like that. I'm just, you know, putting it out there as a theoretical, of course. But yeah, what's interesting about the Ethereum side, even though it's more traceable because of the functionality of being able to code smart contracts, you can do a lot of interesting stuff. So all these decentralized exchanges, you can really start to do crazy stuff where where you don't, where you can start to obfuscate the transactions a lot more, and throw stuff around, convert things to another token, which then goes over here and then spits out to 15 different addresses and airdrops to things over here. And you can do anything, right? Because you can code it. So I would really love to see more, you know, some smart contract stuff on Bitcoin. I really, really would. I mean, I would love to build stuff, and most of it's on like side chains like Stacks and RSK, but I'd really like to see some in Lightning. I'd like to see Lightning Network and the RGB network really come to fruition, because those the devs there are working hard on that stuff, and I think that could really help on the privacy side as well.
I don't think we'll be able to solve it today, but we will discuss privacy again in the future. But we're running out of time. We're moving on to issue 5. Issue 5.
Can I just hop in, because there was a really interesting precedent, which is Crawford and the Royal Bank, which has happened in Scotland in the 1700s, and it was where Crawford signed all these banknotes, and then tried to argue that those banknotes then belonged to him or something. And it's called Crawford and versus the Royal Bank, and the precedent was set. It's called the fungibility of banknotes, absolute currency of money. In that, if you have money, then it has to be fungible. That you can't have tainted money. But it's these things have been realized about if you have money and you want money to be able to work, that you can't have money which has been tainted, and some money which hasn't been tainted, and you just can't have it. And that was, established back in the 1700s.
Yeah, but that's fungibility,
right? With a Bitcoin system, you can track everything. You have a database. You can track millions or hundreds of millions of addresses. So they're using that against us, the technology features.
Yeah, and in that case that Ben brought up, that's fungibility through law, because every banknote has a unique non-fungible number. So actually, by law, they're just not allowed to say, hey, by the way, because you go to the bank with a bunch of money that you earned, and the bank can't just take it from you and bring it back to the police station and return it back to the person who it was stolen from 3 transactions ago because of that law. And so it would be interesting to see if, like, somewhere like El Salvador, that's made a legal tender out of Bitcoin, would grant Bitcoin the similar idea of fungibility through law rather than through technology.
Well, and we just have to get Bitcoin, the Trojan horse, inside the walls. It has to bend and not break, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But more and more, we're seeing all the financial people are helping, and they're carrying the Trojan horse inside the wall.
The unanimous decision from the courts was that money is not subject to any victim relay, and it cannot be vindicated from the bona fide possessor, however clear of the proof of the theft may be. So you can't say that these coins have been tainted. Yeah, looking up the Crawford and the versus the Royal Bank, important case.
Yes, but it also sounds like our money now goes through a relay and could be tainted. So the technology of the issue has changed. Previously, hand-to-hand cash was not relayed, but Bitcoin's clearly relayed. So they might have to revisit that case in the future, and it might not go well for Bitcoin. Moving on to issue 5, Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. Apecoin DAO airdrops millions of Apecoins to NFT owners. Yes, Bored Ape Yacht Club is back in the news again after purchasing the assets of CryptoPunks and Meebits just a couple of weeks ago, and the leftover CryptoPunks and Meebits. They've now launched their own coin, delivering most of the coin to ape holders. Adam McBride, your thoughts on this exciting development in the NFT industry, and more looking like the Bored Ape Yacht Club industry?
Get ready for another NFT bull run, my friends. Buy right now. Quick. Martin, come on, man. Get on board, brother. Buy your first NFT, man. This is it. Yeah, this is those guys are geniuses. Straight up. Those guys get it. They understand what they're doing. I'm not saying it's look when you look at the breakdown of how much the ape holders and the dog holders and the mutants got, that percentage is so small compared to the entire like coin release. The amount that Yuga is like keeping for themselves, keeping for the founders, keeping for the team. Whew. I mean, it's incredible that they were able to convince all these Bored Ape holders that this is a great deal. While they're going to literally be billionaires from this coin drop. It's incredible, you know, for the NFT space. It's very exciting. Everybody gets fired up because it's free money, right? In theory, it's free, right? If you bought a Bored Ape at 300 grand though, it's not really free, right? You bought into this kind of ecosystem. I just think the guys who run Yuga are just so in tune with what gets the NFT space excited that it can't be underestimated. I mean, I think this may be the first coin that works from a project standpoint. Just they obviously the entire space knows about it. It's all over the news. The globe is knowing about it. So I wouldn't get in its way. That's for sure. I wouldn't be shorting this one because it's just got so much momentum. It's going to be hard to stop.
Well, and what I want to laud them for here is their execution, because we had many of the similar ideas. We thought that we should have a membership club. We thought that we could have our own currency to reward our members to even trade our NFTs or our curio cards in. But our execution wasn't there. We weren't at the right time. And what they've done is come in at the right time and just execute perfectly. That's why I think the CryptoPunks holders were probably in the right decision to give their IP, sell their IP for probably billions of dollars to them, because they will handle it well. And I do think they're going to handle it, this strange new membership club with a membership club currency. I think they're going to handle it well. I think they've got the right execution. And again, this idea has been out there for a long time. As Kurt Vonnegut Jr. said in his book, Slapstick, Americans just really want to be part of a club. And what he suggested is that since we don't have enough cousins and brothers, we don't have large enough families anymore, that everyone would be assigned an adjective like red and a number like 15 as a new middle name. Now, suddenly, anyone who also has the middle name Red is like your brother or sister. Everyone who has the number 15 is like your cousin. Now there's all these red clubs in all these towns you could go to. There's all these 15 clubs if you need a place to stay. And just like your current relatives, you like some of them and you don't like others. People love to join clubs. They love to collect things. Bored Ape Yacht Club with the Apecoin seems to have a handle on this. They seem to have an understanding on this. And more importantly, they have the execution and now hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars to back this up by hiring other professionals and so forth to work on their project full time. So I think it's going to be huge. I don't know about the price or anything like that, but just in general, this is a good company, or it seems from the outside. I don't know anything from the inside.
I'll just add kind of one number if you guys haven't seen it. The percentage they gave to existing holders, right? So that's like basically 20,000 people, the existing holders, was 14% of all the coins. So 14% went to them. 14% went to the core team. 8% went. I mean, the amount they got was so small. I know if I even put it out on Twitter, I would get beaten down as being like fudding and all this sort of stuff. But it's amazing that team was able to say, oh, this tiny bit we're going to give out and you guys are going to be happy with it. And people were thrilled. They really have the pulse on the market. That's for sure.
Well, like we said earlier, with the price going up, saving or not saving El Salvador, the price of the Bored Apes went up. It was a 0.3 Ethereum and now it's 30 Ethereum or more or whatever it is. People made lots of money. They're very happy. Maybe Paris Hilton or Jimmy Fallon, they haven't made lots of money yet. Maybe they're counting this Apecoin, like Adam was saying. But again, if you have to put in millions of dollars to get back thousands, even if it's denominated in Apecoin, it's not a good deal. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on Apecoin taking over the world?
Well, the thing is with giving out low percentages, right? It's been to the public and then keeping a lot for founders. It's a tried and tested method that, as much as you can criticize it, it's still successful. And Ethereum kind of has proved that, and various other coins as well, where you've got the founders sort of reward, like Zcash, and well, I don't know where Zcash is nowadays. Maybe I've got my 2017 head still back on. But ultimately, the people that are buying into it don't give a crap because they believe that their money's going to go completely nuts, and the people outside are the ones that are most likely to criticize it. You don't shit on your own doorstep. So I don't own a Bored Ape. I'm not going to lie. I wish I bought one, not at 300k. I wish I bought one at like a $5 or whatever they were going that was cheap, like anything. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a kind of airdrop. People get excited about airdrops. They didn't, it came out of nowhere. So for these people that even bought at really high rates, it's a kind of consolation prize. It's a booby prize, right? It's like, well, I bought my Bored Ape really high, but now they've almost not just a consolation prize, but they've almost got like a backup thing, right? So they've got this free money that they can either sell and get something back, or if the momentum of both of these things does well, then the token they've got is going to go up and the actual Bored Apes are going to go back up again. And so they've almost got like this spiral of publicity that each one is going to help the other. So for the people that are in, then cool beans. And the people that are out, oh, God damn it, I wish I had an ape.
And they've already done a great job rewarding the fans of their products. Adam, I don't know the exact details, but did everyone get a mutant ape, or did they all get a syringe? I know they upgraded.
Yeah, you got a serum back in the day, the olden days, the long ago, of like 8 months ago. Yeah, you got a serum which allowed you to take your ape and basically get a whole nother NFT, which is the mutants. And some people still have those serums, and some of those serums are like one traded for like, I don't even know, 1,500 ETH or 2,000 ETH. Just crazy numbers. Yeah, obviously the lottery ticket of all lottery tickets was buying an ape at launch, but regrets. It's part of the NFT space, man.
So obviously, if you have one valuable thing and then the company gives you another valuable thing that you could sell if you want, and then maybe another valuable thing if it mutates, and then now you get some valuable Apecoin, they're just doing a classic textbook good job of rewarding their fans. And while it's simple to say, hey, just give them money, people do like free money. Joshua Shigala, are you an ape holder? Are you looking for some free money?
I wouldn't want to be part of a club that has people like me as members. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it's amazing. I agree with Adam. This is a tried and true method of airdropping, especially with the very vast numbers, like trillions. You can see that in some crypto projects, like 200 trillion tokens. And so there's people that feel like, wow, I've got 10 billion. Imagine if it goes to $1. This is the sort of, logic. But hey, I think it's all an experiment. I think if people are willing to try it, I think go for it. And people burn their hands and they won't do it again, or they actually do well. The important part is that we need people like Adam, educators in the space, because it is fraught, full of danger, and it is highly speculative. I mean, it's the art market, right? So it's one of these things where we need educators and people like this show, shows like this, shows like Adam's, and many other podcasters are there primarily to teach people, the good ones, teach people what scams look like. What do they look like? Now, if this looks like a scam, hey, it's up to you. You might be able to sell it quicker than the other guy, and it is what it is. But I'm a big fan of people learning, people taking responsibility for their finances. Of course, there is the old gambling gene, and some people have it very, very strongly, and it's very unfortunate because it does ruin families. But again, we're all human. This is a Darwinian race towards something. So if you screw up too often, you might not mate. That's what it comes down to. I think it all comes down to education and people touching that candle a few times or once at least and going, ooh, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
And ARK, they've got their own membership cards. They've got their own currency. If they started collecting taxes, they'd be a government. What do you think about the Bored Ape Yacht Club?
I have literally no idea about any of the words any of you have just said. And I have no idea. I read they read the heading for the article and it just confused me. There were lots of words I didn't understand. Cool, crack on. Like when it comes to Bitcoin, I'm sure it'll all make sense. For now, it's the Wild West. And I mean, it's just whatever. It's just this thing I don't understand. And I'm amazed that people have the mind space to be able to like get their heads around Bitcoin and then also get their heads around all these other complicated things. Is it on Ethereum? Is it like an Ethereum thing? Like, is it built on Ethereum? Was it built on one of these Ethereum, like, because Ethereum can actually do the things Ethereum's supposed to do. So you build these weird shit side chains where they have to like, every now and then they have to do these like stamps where they take the whole ledger and then they make a hash and then they put it in the Ethereum blockchain and then they could roll back the thing, like the Matic type shit. Like, is it that, or is it on Ethereum? Like what?
I wouldn't say it's that, but they are doing some of this kind of crazy stuff where it's like, okay, it's a token. And then they've, in order to try and protect themselves, they set up a DAO, right? And then they set up a foundation to manage the DAO, and all of this stuff's offshore, and it's all these layers and all this kind of decentralized stuff, which we've talked about.
It's cool. It's cool.
It's cool because it's a membership card.
That's the core. It's a membership club.
Profile picture thing.
Yeah,
you have a unique profile picture. And now you get to go to the parties. Right. Now you get some of the Apecoin. You get the mutant ape. You get the syringe. You get all the.
It's innovating and it's exciting, but I mean, a lot of it feels like a castle built on sand because I don't got that much trust in Ethereum as it is. But cool, like crazy words, do the things, and then eventually, when like it comes into my world, like a no coiner, it'll all make sense. It'll be like email. I'll be like, what is internet? And then all of a sudden, internet will make sense. Crack on.
Still, to see these kind of organizations raise trillions of dollars while you're suffering out there in the wilderness with Ellen Bits, I don't know, Ben, just doesn't seem right.
I really like DAOs as well. I mean, instinctively, I like DAOs as a way of organizing stuff. I think it's cool, but yeah, when it gets to me, it'll all be fixed and it'll make sense. So carry on innovating.
Martine Wishmayer, another member of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, right here.
No, not for me. I personally wouldn't touch any coins that have picture of a dog on it. And the fact that it took 54 years after the original Planet of the Apes movie to actually launch Apecoin, I don't have that time of that kind of patience. So no yacht, Bored Ape Yacht Club for me. No Apecoins, no projects on, as Ben said, built on quicksand like the Ethereum network. It's just not my thing. But whatever floats your boat, if it's nice and you just like, at least by the time it all goes down, you can still say, I have a picture of a bored ape, and that might you might be able to print it on a T-shirt and say, well, this is my ape. I got the rights to this ape. I'm actually the owner of this ape. I lost all my money, but I do have a picture of this ape. So yeah, whatever floats your boat, but I will not be joining. And maybe, just maybe, once it all matures and stuff, we'll start building applications for it and machines that sell apes. I don't know.
So you can have I can go to your ATM and I can put like 20 euros in and I can get a picture of an ape.
Yeah. Right? Well, yeah, sure.
One day in the distant future.
Yeah.
We can all dream.
But are they bored? But is it a bored ape or is it excited? I don't know.
No, it's an ape smoking a cigar, so it's extra special.
What's interesting is how the as you mentioned about the club, right? There's other businesses that are trying to capitalize on this. So they're saying like, right, if you own a Bored Ape Yacht Club like NFT, you can if you prove that you own it, you can then get certain perks on our platform. So then owning it becomes this kind of like hold the American Express like gold card or whatever, like the uranium card, whatever the highest one is now.
You get free peanuts.
Is it free peanuts? Yeah, exactly. I thought you said free peanuts first of all. You get free peanuts.
No.
The Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Unlimited.
Unlimited peanuts. But yeah, like it's becoming like this special club where you can use your NFT as a sort of extra ticket entry to a VIP area. So it's interesting to see what they're doing with it. But yeah, it's all it's all newfangled technology stuff as well for me. All these crazy NFT things.
Arteen's ideas have led me to an interesting global warming analogy. Perhaps it's just the Bored Ape Yacht Club is mocking everyone who doesn't believe in global warming and not taking enough action soon enough. And they're like, you stupid apes, you're just sitting there doing nothing. Like Greta would say. What would Greta say, Daniel? Shame.
How
Shame
dare you?
How
Blah
dare
blah
you?
blah blah
How
blah.
dare you?
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yes, once again, what a society. We can raise trillions of dollars for these apes, and we can have private parties on yachts. We can't do anything.
Is it trillions of dollars?
This is the biggest thing in the industry. Adam, try to explain to Ben how
Can you
big.
explain to me like an idiot? I mean,
It
not
was
that
like
I am an idiot.
three
I am,
hundred
yeah.
trillions.
Now it's like
What they're
trillions.
trying to do, what the apes are trying to do, and Yuga Labs is trying to do, is make the default token or the default currency for all like in-game currencies and things like that. So anybody, what they're trying to do is make this so big a coin that if I'm making a new video game and I want to include a token within the game for like a play to earn game, I'm going to use the ape token because it already has like a market for trading. And so they're trying to be this
How
default
could a
currency.
company
That's
already-
literally what they're doing.
How could a company already be so big that it could smell its own farts? How could it have so quickly? Like this technology they've developed, it's just amazing. Like, how could they do that? But yes, Ben, it's huge. It's like Jimmy Fallon and Paris Hilton both own one of these things, and we're talking about it on TV. They bought them through concierge services that go out and buy a bunch of these and then sell them as a catalog to other rich people who don't have time to shop on the open market. And these they weren't the first, they're not early, all those things, but like Adam and I've been saying, the company just seems really well organized. They have a really good plan. They're executing incredibly well. And yes, trillions of dollars. They could probably buy El Salvador, and they probably wouldn't want to.
Do you think these are like professional adults in the room now? Like you have all the sort of crypto kitty craziness, and then you have people saying, "Oh, obviously this is worth a lot of money. Now let's some big giga brains come in the room and do this thing properly." And is that?
I would think so, given by the deal they did with CryptoPunks. This other company, Larva Labs, owned the actual first ones, other than Curio Cards and some other things, and they sold their intellectual property and their leftover CryptoPunks to this company, basically saying, you guys can handle this better. You can run it better than us. You can serve the community. Adam, what do you think? Anything else about this company?
Yeah, they're the leaders in the space. I mean, period. And they believe in a kind of decentralized NFT Web3 future that, and they want to be, people would say the Disney of that, or the big company of that. They want to be the dominator, and they have the two biggest NFT brands under their roof. And so they made a huge move. God knows how much they paid for the CryptoPunk IP. I mean, estimates are in the like $300 million range for that IP. So we'll see how it works, man. I mean, it's a huge risk, and you know, there's a lot of a significant risk that these go down tremendously, obviously. But there's also a tremendous upside that they got it right, and if they do, this is who knows the value of this company. This is potentially $1 trillion brand.
What chain? What chain is the token on?
So these are on Ethereum, yeah.
On base Ethereum, and they want to be the coin on every.
So that what they'd like to be is be the coin for all these kind of play to earn games. I mean, at the core, that's what it is. People are into this like play to earn game building business. Like everybody wants to be the next Axie, or somehow incorporate coins into all these kind of
but I mean, we're doing a lot of R&D at the moment on Ethereum and on Ethereum virtual machine. So it doesn't have to be Ethereum, but it's almost impossible that Ethereum will scale. It will scale only with a whole bunch of different puzzle pieces coming together, and one of them being the whole sidechain or roll-ups. I'm a big advocate of the roll-ups. I think they're really good, especially the ZK ones, because they add the privacy in there. Well, they can add the privacy. They don't at the moment, but if they're doing it purely on Ethereum, I'm sure they've got plans to do it on some sort of layer 2, because that just won't work.
I think they're going to be curing all their technical problems with money, because you can cure anything with money. And those pay to earn games Adam was talking about also featured on South Park. Also a fantastic series of episodes there. And one of the other neat ideas I think they're going to work on with the IP of the CryptoPunks and the Bored Apes is both television shows, animated shows, and movies with these characters, video games with these characters, and then maybe we'll even see that idea where if you own the character and your character becomes popular in the video game, somehow you get some money from having your ape in the video game or your ape in the cartoon television show. These ideas were very theoretical to us, but this company is actually going to have the money to write the scripts, to hire the people, to make the animation.
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to do years ago when CryptoKitties came out, because I actually come from an animation background. I wanted to buy some really cheap CryptoKitties and then make an animation series with that one and be able to then sell it off.
Turns out you can do this, but you just have to marry Ashton Kutcher. That's where you went wrong. If you just married Ashton Kutcher, you can have multiple television shows, cartoons based on NFTs. And who knows? Maybe they'll be successful. Maybe they're funny.
Is roll-ups the thing where they take the snapshots thing on the site?
Yeah, in a way.
I read into that shit, man, and it sounded really cool and complex and crypto-y on the surface. But then when I looked into it, it sounded like a piece of shit. They just take these snapshots, which then they can, if they need to, they can roll back their chain on their side chain, and then they just take that thing and then they put it into Ethereum, because Ethereum can't actually do the things it promises it can do.
Yeah, like there's different versions of it. So there's one based on a lot of more trust, and that's and then there's ones that aren't based on trust, and they're the ones I'm interested in, where they can't roll back. But yeah, it's obviously also if it's centralized on that side. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of work to be done, and just like Lightning wasn't perfect and has a lot of issues, that need to be solved. There's a lot of issues that need to be solved here, and no one's saying it's all been solved and it's all perfect. But there's a lot of good brains trying to make it work. So we'll see. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for people like yourself, Lightning wouldn't be where it is now. I don't know.
I think Lightning's pretty good, man. Like it's as a side chain, it's a pretty well thought out side. It's kind of working as they expected it would work from the beginning.
It worked fine for me.
Yeah. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but it was because of people like Ben and Fear Jeff and I mean a whole thousands of people working and building and fixing certain things, fixing the routing issues, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be worked on for it to be working, and it's it's amazing. But I'm just saying it wasn't on day one when SegWit came through the door. It didn't just instantly work.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of different with some of these Ethereum protocols, because they do feel a bit band-aidy. Like, oh no, this can't do that thing which we thought it could do. So now we're going to come up with this new way of doing it. Whereas with Lightning, it was like, oh no, Bitcoin can't scale, and we know it can't scale to do all these transactions and microcoin transactions. And there's a sort of very well thought out protocol which was developed over an incredible amount of time. Whereas with Ethereum, it all feels, I mean, still the move fast, break things. It's cool because they innovate and they come up with all these great, NFTs and whatever else, all this newfangled technology. But it always feels like a bit like, actually, we can't do it on this node, so now we're gonna have to build this other thing, and then we have this roll-up thing, we do and ultimately, like, a lot of it just feels like it could just be kind of done in a centralized way and work well. Talking of Fiat Jeff, actually, he's got the have you seen Atlenium? Atlenium is centralized smart contracts, which is like a master troll at Ethereum, and it's actually very cool. Atlenium, if anyone in the audience wants to go Google it, Atlenium centralized smart contracts, so it's quite a good idea, in fact. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. The Ethereum stuff scares me because it's just every time I look at it, it's like more hacky bits built on top of hacky bits to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I cannot build what I need to on Bitcoin. So this is the biggest issue.
I'll say it's an impatient technology for impatient people. Like, I mean,
that's like when I wanted to make my collectibles and I couldn't make my collectibles on Bitcoin. We had to go to Ethereum, and everyone was critical of us at the time. But now everyone else has gone to the same solution we went to.
No, I'm still critical.
Yeah, I'm still critical too. I mean, I think that there was always that promise. Like the cypherpunks realized it early on. They were like, they wrote about anonymous transaction systems, and then they realized that they would then have all this other stuff, all this utility built on top of it. And it was like, okay, well, now we have Bitcoin, now we want all this other utility. Well, we can't have it because we need, Turing complete, blah, blah, blah. So then Vitalik makes Ethereum, and it feels like they're trying to like push towards those futurist ideas, which were outlined by the cypherpunks early on, but they're trying to do it too early, like it's like the technology is not being built. As a testnet side, as a testnet chain, whatever, like carry on, and then all the stuff eventually, if it's good enough, it'll end up on Bitcoin.
It is interesting. You expect the more centralized institutions like Coinbase or something to maybe be leading the way on these things, but then it's Binance coming in out of left field. You expect these traditional things to have it, and then Bored Ape Yacht Club comes in out of left field. You never know where the innovation is going to come from. And like Josh is saying, Ben's LN Bits and all of the volunteers and other programmers there, they're coming out of left field and making major changes to this industry as well. So exciting to see. I think we're going to head towards the end of the show here. Are you ready with a prediction? I know Adam McBride is ready with a prediction, so we'll go to him first. Prediction, then story of the week. Then we're going to do a little talk about the 300, and then we're going to be out because it's already a really long episode.
You're going to see a Bored Ape trade for $10 million in the next month or so. It's going to go crazy.
Oh, $10 million. That's crushing. Still a chance you could send me a free Bored Ape. Come on, I'll join your club. All you have to do is send me one. Maybe two, then I'll have one to sell. Dan, Eve, a prediction. Tell us about the future.
Okay, so I think I can't remember what I did last week, but I think I went to no nuclear war, and I think I was correct. So nice and easy one. And I'm going to go for a prediction next week that there will also be no nuclear war, and I think that also Bitcoin will go up. So I'm doing a double prediction, which is like one of those like betting slips where you do the combination things where you've got to get two matches in a row, or two matches that are the same prediction. So no nuclear war and Bitcoin on the up again.
Martine Wishmayer, a prediction.
No, I don't. I only have a story of the week. So
story of the week. His prediction is he has no prediction.
No prediction
came true already. Ben Ark, a prediction. Are you ready?
Honduras.
That's it. It's a single word prediction. Joshua Shigala, can you top Honduras? Do you have maybe another word to repeat?
No. Prediction. I actually don't have one. No. I'm prediction at a loss.
All right, let's go to Adam McBride. Do you have a story of the week? Go ahead, Adam.
Story of the week is NFTs, man. You guys got to get into them, bro. This is the future. We're building the future on the Ethereum blockchain. And no, Ethereum is not a test net. It's a real blockchain. I love you guys.
Keep trying to convince them of that.
Big blockchain for big
It's a block pain.
It's a block pain. I think Thomas said it right, which is like, look, all this stuff is just built by humans, man, and it's flawed and crappy, and we just keep working, man, and hopefully we're working to a better future. Who knows what's going to happen it could all go to zero, my friends. Something could break and it all ends tomorrow, but I'm hopeful that smart people like you guys build the future for us.
You got some great talent in Ethereum. I just want them all back in Bitcoin.
Dan, Eve, a story of the week?
No stories from me.
Josh Shigala, story of the week? Anybody this week?
Basically, the story of the week is we're signing deals also to do with NFT marketplaces for S-Euro, so that S-Euro will be the base currency, and then the other currencies to be traced out there as well. And we're releasing a version 2 of the white paper because there was a bunch of stuff after a whole bunch of R&D over the last months to fix up certain game theoretical issues, but also one of the things that we really saw when we have an in-house data analyst at Voltoro, and I said, why didn't any other Euro stablecoin come out? And what happened to the USD stablecoins that failed? What was the main issue in them? And every time it was lack of liquidity. So we worked really strongly to figure out how to launch with deep liquidity from the get-go, and we've solved it by taking the best of a few different protocols and figuring out what they did right, what they did wrong, and putting it together. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, come over to the Discord at thestandard.io and yeah, see what we're doing, because it'll be coming out pretty soon. It's going to be really, like, I think we're going to compete with every CBDO because the centralized stablecoins will all be made illegal, and decentralized stablecoins was where it's at. And we're building really the most advanced one that will mirror every single fiat currency in the world and be fully collateralized. There you go. It's my story.
And is it based on the Apecoin? Does the Apecoin,
No.
is that the base layer?
No, sadly not.
No apes.
No, we're really aiming for that layer zero thing, layer zero of stable coins. That's basically where we're going. So Ape can be on top of us, but maybe they can use Ape as collateral.
And you can learn more at thestandard.io. Ben Ark, do you have a story of the week for us?
Can I share screen?
Go ahead.
This dude. Good on him. Well done to that bloke. Found 5,000 Bitcoin on his old laptop. So that's topping out on Reddit. And then 2 days later got the love of his life, even though he's a OAP.
That's true romance.
True
You said romance is dead, eh?
Yeah, let's have a look at
Wow.
Definitely
so
not a
this is the guy.
stereotype.
This is the guy. Look at him.
He found the love of his life.
I bet she loves his private keys.
Yeah, that guy is the story of the week. And I have got a question though, because things happen on this show, don't they? Like you put ideas out there, like Tallycoin, and then someone goes and makes it, and then it becomes really useful, and it's in the news and it's everywhere, and then you have like real world impact. So I'm going to put the idea out there because you've got NFT people on the line now, so we can talk about NFTs. What I really want, talking about computer games as well, maybe the Apecoin people were like this. What I really want is like, I think, top trumps. Does anyone know top trumps? Like it's like you have like, you buy like little boxes of cards, and it has like the Simpsons top trumps, and then it'll be like a different Simpson, and then they'll have like 5 different stats, like strength, and then you'll have to like play against each other, and then you'll say one thing, and then the other person's got to have like a higher number than you to beat you. You know what that is? They've probably got a different name in different parts of the world. In the UK, it's called top trumps. You know what a top trumps is, don't you?
Yeah.
It's got some
top
weird
trumps.
names.
It's like it'd be like a
everywhere.
motorbike, and it'd be like top speed, acceleration to 6 to
Yeah, I saw a tractor one. I saw tractors.
Top
Tractors.
Yeah.
Right. So my idea for the NFT world, right, is and I think this would be quite cool as well. So you have does anyone remember CS:GO? I mean, I was teaching kids, and they were buying these vouchers to play CS:GO, and in CS:GO you get this crate, and the more money you spend on these vouchers, the more likely you are when you open this crate that you get like a decent weapon with decent stats. So my idea is that you have like a vault, and then you send money to the vault, and then the more money you send to it, the more likelihood is that you will get like a good quality card back. Now it's called a generic top trump. So it's not Simpsons, it's not tractors, it's not motorbikes, it's not cars. It's just a generic JSON of integers. Okay, so you have the first integer, so you have 6 integers. The first one is from 0 to 1,000. And then the other, actually, all of them are 0 to 1,000. The first one is a type. And then the other ones are like stats. So for example, I put money into this vault, I get my generic top trump. Now this generic top trump protocol, I can bring this into a game. So say if I bring it into Grand Theft Auto, 0 to 20 in Grand Theft Auto might be like the sports bike, okay? And then 20 to 40 might be some car or something, and then 40 to that might be a gun. So that depends. So in game, they can decide which item it is on that integer. Okay, that's the first thing. So I bring it in, and then in Grand Theft Auto, it's a sports bike, say. And then, because I didn't put much money in, but I was quite lucky. So I had like a high stat. So I had like high acceleration, and then shitty handling, shitty cornering, shitty blah, blah, blah. Right. I take that same generic top trump, right? and protocol NFT. And then I take that and I bring it into, I don't know, like a Fortnite, and then it's a weapon. Or if I bring it into World of Warcraft, and it's a different type of weapon. So I could bring it in this protocol, this generic NFT protocol, generic top trump NFT protocol. I can bring it into different games, and then it's different items with different stats. It's like CS:GO. Like the more money you put in, the more likely you are to get one of these things out. Now, what's quite cool about it is that the vault itself then is accumulating money, which could then be, I thought you could use it for something like paying for development. So if there was like the Ethereum, developers, or I don't know what you call them, the Ethereum cabal, right? If they had one of these, this vault, and then people put Ethereum in, then they get this fucking thing out, right? And then the vault then sends the funds to all the main contributors on the Ethereum repo, okay, periodically every month or something. So they all get paid. But then you've also got the secondary market then, where these tokens float around and they're worth different values, because you could bring them into different games. And that crappy that generic NFT top trump in Grand Theft Auto, and it has like the car with the really good handling but crappy everything else stats. Actually, in World of Warcraft, it might be ace. It might be like a super gnarly axe which can smash someone, but then don't let someone hit the axe because it might explode because it's actually very weak. So yeah, that's my idea. I want to put it out there, and I want someone to like do something with it and make it, because I think it's a cool idea. But I don't know how to make it, because I don't know how to do NFT things. But
I'm gonna have to listen to that all over again about 30 times to understand what you just said.
I think it's a cool idea. You should make it. It's good, but it needs to be a protocol. Like, because top trumps are really whatever they're called where you are, because I don't think they're called, I think it's just in UK they're called top trumps. When you know what they're everywhere, these things. You'll see them in stores everywhere. They're all different cars. You'll have like Avengers top trumps, Simpsons, tractors, cars, blah, 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 right? It's an important part of our real world life for little kids and playing cards, and families when they're on holiday camping and they play these cards.
Sorry, don't kids play on a Nintendo DS nowadays?
Well, no, but you could bring this into the Nintendo DS game. See, this is the point.
Didn't they do
supports the
Pepe type
protocol
ones? Didn't they do Pepe type ones where they have different powers? Like
that's exactly. But this is like a generic version. So you could, in fact, you could have like online things, like online you could print them out and they could be different characters or whatever. But also you could bring them into computer games. So
I see an issue here, which is the same reason why we don't see cryptocurrency acceptance in the video games, is that the makers of the video games usually make money selling loot boxes and selling you the weapon with their own in-house currency, because that way they are not only the game developer, they're also the bank. And this protocol, how cool it would be is that you can you can exchange your items between games, but at the same time it would take away money from the game developers. And this
unless Rockstar, they do this thing and then they pay their developers, and then these protocol you can then import it into all the different Rockstar games.
So you have to get them on board. Oh,
I think we're running out of time. You're gonna have a hard time getting people 2.5 hours into this show to find the thing you guys are talking about. But it is the 300th episode of the show, so I wanted to leave some time at the end. Dan, what do you think about the 300th episode of the Bitcoin Group? Any memories of watching the show or being on the show, something you want to highlight? And then we'll just go down the group, and then I'll try to thank people at the end. I'm going to forget people. I don't have a good enough list.
Well, it's just an incredible, incredible being part of it. Like I haven't been here from the start, and there's obviously been many people along the way. So that kind of being in that chain of people, that show chain instead of a blockchain, is just a real big honor. And being 300 is like the longest running. So that was 2013, was it, or 2014 where it started? 2013.
Very early.
Absolutely incredible.
2014 World Crypto.
I remember watching Mad Bitcoins in 2013, but not WCN. So I think it's just cool that, years ago, nearly 10 years ago, I was getting inspired by you, like buying mining equipment and bankrupting myself with your crazy ass psychedelic backgrounds. And now I'm a part of, one of the shows. So I think I'm absolutely honored, and what you've done with WCN and Mad Bitcoins is incredible. So absolute kudos, man.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Absolutely.
Martin, your thoughts about the
I
300
I remember, like, Thomas, you were like, the Mad Bitcoin show was the very first show I watched on my mobile. It was some shitty, crappy HTC back then. My data connection was slow. I was stuck in the traffic jam, and I put my phone on the dashboard of the car, and I was watching a show about Bitcoin in my car. And it felt like, we're changing the world here, one show at a time. And 300 episodes later, I'm still there. I'm still watching. And I think it's amazing. The consistency at which shows have been produced. You've been, like, recording shows like in practically every continent in the world, on this planet now. So in Europe, different shows, every time, and always, like, in the latest news in crypto. So I think for the viewers, it's just a one-stop source for anything crypto, and I think you did an amazing job there. And it's I'm really proud I get to join every once in a while for the show, because it's the World Crypto Network. It's the original with the sharpest satoshis for almost 10 years now.
Thanks so much, Martin. It's great. And I know a lot of people have told the story how they used to talk back at the show at home, and then they got a chance to be on the show. And I think that's really fun that, pretty much anyone that wants to eventually can work their way up to the show. Let's go. Let's see. Josh Segala, your thoughts on the 300th episode?
Yeah, man, I just gotta back up what everyone else said. It's a real honor to be on the show. I think it's amazing to think 300 shows. And if it was a daily show, you'd think, oh yeah, a couple of years, but a year, but it's once a week. So to get that many shows, and it's just every Friday, is really phenomenal. And I've got to, think about all those great shows and all the great information, and also the inspiration that I had from guests that have been on the show, and being challenged as well, both philosophically and politically. And that's one thing that I've loved about the show is, I'm a crazy libertarian nut job, and you're on the opposite side of the spectrum. I feel, in terms of the old school political left right wing stuff, and what I love is that we're here and we're together, and we don't have this cancel culture thing where we're like, I don't want to hear it, I get offended, and instead we battle it out. And this is something that's quite unique nowadays, because nowadays people are all in their echo chambers where they feel good and they don't get offended, and they're nice and cozy, and they just bury themselves and get deeper and deeper into their own philosophical crap. So that's really solid, and it's one of these things where I think it's just fantastic that you have all sorts of views and walks of life on the show. And I think I'm hoping, and I'm looking forward to the next 300.
Thanks so much, Josh. Ben, Ark, your thoughts on episode 300?
100% same, long-time fan. Thomas, it's amazing. You've been going for such a long time. It's been consistent. It's been a go-to for just getting the digest on the news of the week. And it's all the, I mean, obviously some of the audience, they feel the need to actually get in front of the camera and participate in the panel, such as ourselves who are here now, and we're all fans who ended up becoming, participants. But all the audience who were just sort of inspired by the dialogue and the information and the energy and the focus, even when it went on, there's periods in Bitcoin's timeline where it went quiet and nobody cared about Bitcoin, and we continually there slugging away. For me, I remember when I was teaching, a Friday night, I used to get a bunch of beers. I'd sit in the bath, I'd drink my beers, and I'd watch the Bitcoin group. I used to shout at the screen. I'd be like, oh, whatever. And then eventually I had to get in and join and participate. But, thank you, Thomas. And then also thank you to the audience as well, because they've always been incredible. And quite often, like the chat, there's like two shows going on at the same time. There's the show which we're doing, and then there's the show which is going on in the chat. And there's always really interesting information in there as well. And just staying on the straight and narrow, I think Bitcoin Group's one of the main reasons I didn't get too deep into the shitcoin world, and that was great. So yeah, a real inspiration, an honor to be a part of it. And 300 is incredible. You know, when you say it's like it's a weekly show, and it's not even every week. There were periods where we didn't have shows for a few weeks. I remember, like, when I was working, I remember there'd be those weeks where there was no show at the end of the week, and it threw me, like, it threw my routine. And then I'd be off. I'd be like, for the whole week, I'd be like, oh, but there wasn't a Bitcoin group. What do I do? And then that was part of the reason I wanted to participate, because I was like, okay, they haven't got enough people. They need more people to keep the show. I'll have to join in and do something. So no, fantastic. It's a real, it's a pleasure. It's an honor, and it's always enjoyable to be on. And as Josh said, it's great to, like, have that conversation and have this back and forth of ideas. And we, in fact, you know, Josh with our, you know, fucking commie lefty ideas, and then Josh infects us with those free market libertarian ideas, and we reach a success, and it's great. I love it.
Thanks so much, Ben. And again, the reason we started this show, originally I had mad Bitcoins. I was kind of silly. I even was maybe even a little pseudo-anonymous at first. But then it seemed like there was a gap there for more serious discussion of Bitcoin. And I like Let's Talk Bitcoin. And if you guys notice, you go back in the archives, we actually had Andreas Antonopoulos and Adam Levine, Adam B. Levine from Let's Talk Bitcoin on the show. And it was great to have their contributions. And it was great to try to do this more serious discussion. Obviously, it's patterned after the McLaughlin group. John McLaughlin, rest in peace, started a political show in the 70s where he did the same kind of roundtable, and they would have the strong opinions. They'd have the strong moderator, and a lot of these ideas are taken from McLaughlin. So it's great to be able to continue this idea of what I enjoyed about the McLaughlin group was like Ben was saying, left wing, right wing, disagreeing with each other, even getting loud. And then at the end of the show, they're like, oh, this is all fine. Let's go drink whiskey and smoke cigars. You know, they don't have a concern about it. We can still talk about these issues. Before I run out of time, I want to thank, I try to remember some of the names. I want to thank Sam for always updating our podcast. Sam in India did for many years, updated the World Crypto Network podcast. Corey also later out helped on the podcast. I want to thank Jeremy for doing the time codes for many years. He did little time codes at the bottom in the comments. You could go straight to an issue. That's really useful. More recently, our friend Marwi has been helping out with the scheduling. So I want to say shout out to Marwi. She scheduled all the people for this show. And of course, all the people who have helped out, been commentators, Chris Ellis, Tone Vase, Jimmy Song, Derek J, Christoph Atlas, MK Lords, Davi Barker, so many early Bitcoiners who helped out on this show. Some of them didn't want to be on a TV show, weren't ready for me to be yelling questions at them and things, but they put up with that and they sacrificed to help the show. And thanks to everybody else who gets all my messages every week about, you want to be on the show, and not getting completely annoyed with me, because that's what I have to do. And thanks, of course, to the audience for giving us a thumbs up, putting in your comments in your chat. Even if you disagree with us, I like that you put your comments out there and that hopefully you can enjoy the show, like Josh said, because it has many sides and we let everyone get their opinions out there. So thanks so much for watching.
And Alex, the clips guy.
Yeah, and the clips guy, all the people that are helping out with the show that I forgot to, all those people too. But thanks so much for joining us for 300 episodes. Like Josh said, we're hoping for 300 more, at least get up to 500. It takes a long time doing the weekly episodes. We try not to miss a week, and we do our best. But thanks so much to everybody for joining us. Until next time, bye.